Hello everybody, welcome to A Different Perspective. I am Dr. Jason Nobles and I am filling in for Dr. Patrick today. He has decided to step away from ADPs and not put these on anymore, so we'll be rotating a schedule of different docs. And that's my April Fool's for you today. He will be back in due time. Traveling right now, doing a lot of that stuff. So I am filling in today and we will be going over allergies. I'll be introducing allergies. And that is our topic for April because this is the time of year when, quite frankly, most people are going to do with this. Ooh, Travis, I can't see this screen. Sorry, guys, I can't see myself. But as we go into, as we go into allergies, I'm going to be introducing them today, just kind of putting our feet in the water, giving you a basic understanding, and going a little bit into my story with my allergies, as you might be able to hear, a little sinusy this time of year. So, upcoming events. So these agents can be microorganisms, chemical products, foods, drugs, pollen, animals, or abnormal cells. So a lot of people will have different allergies to animals, some to pollen, dust, foods, environmental things like fragrances and stuff like that. So it doesn't have to be one thing or the other. And the difference is, I always remember this picture I got in my head, to where on the old allergy commercials, you'd have two people walking through a field and one of them sneezing like crazy and one's not. What's the difference between those people? It's simple. It's just their immune system. Okay? So when we get into allergies, we want to have a healthy, strong immune response. So with allergies, allergies occur when our immune system reacts to a foreign substance such as pollen, bees, pet dander, food that doesn't normally cause a reaction in most people. So our immune system produces antibodies. And if your immune system makes antibodies that identify an allergen as harmful, even if it truly isn't inherently, then you have an allergy to it. So when there's contact with the allergen, your immune system's reaction can inflame your skin, sinuses, airways, or digestive system. So why those four areas? Well, simple. That is because they are your barrier. Okay? What I mean by that is your barrier is your first line of defense against anything you come in contact with, right? So first things first, a lot of people, allergy reaction might get hives on the skin, okay? Hives are just an external environment where your body is protecting you in your barrier. Sinus infections are very common, especially this time of year. Airways, how many asthmatics are out there due to allergens, right? And then lastly is your digestive tract, because when you look at it from that perspective, we talk about food allergies, your digestive tract really from your mouth absorbs into your body, and most of it goes out as waste. We absorb the nutrients and everything. But that barrier inside the gut wall actually keeps those toxins and things like that into. That's their job, okay? Now, when we talk about these barriers, when we break it down, this is basically the process of the layers of your immune system response, right? So first you have the barriers, then something gets in, then you have the innate, and then you have the acquired. We're going to focus today a little bit more on that barrier response because that's where the first contact is. So when we look at it, look at your skin, you're going to have the physical barrier, right? When you throw something at somebody, something bounces off, right? Doesn't get absorbed. Then you have the chemical barrier and the biological barrier. But when you look, all these toxins and everything, they can sit on your skin. But eventually, anything that you put on your skin will be absorbed. When you think about it, the skin is inherently what they refer to as a breathing organ. It's an organ of respiration, similar to our airways, right? So we breathe things and we absorb things in, and that's why anything you put on your skin, whether it's coconut oil, whether it's cacao butter, whether it's apple cider vinegar, whether it's silver, whether it's some toxic sunscreen, whether it's some toxic chemical with lotion with 57 different words that have X's, Y's, and Z's in them, it gets into your bloodstream. And now your immune system has to deal with it, okay? So that's why we always talk about, like yesterday I had a food allergy patient that I was talking to, had apples as an allergy because it's going to absorb and you're going to trigger that immune response, okay? So with the barrier immune system, four different parts, right? Respiratory system, we breathe things in. We breathe in pollen, we breathe in dust, dander, all those wonderful things. The GI system, where we focus mainly on the food allergies. The genitourinary, why the genitourinary? Kidneys produce a lot of histamines, right? So when you think of allergy medication, you take antihistamines. So kidneys can produce a lot of histamines and they become very inflamed, and it's harder for the kidneys to filter and do what they're really supposed to design to be doing, okay? And then the nose and pharynx were those airways, that first line of defense for the airways when sinuses come into play, right? So this time of year, you'll get a lot of people where the first thing they do when they have to wake up in the morning is blow their nose 3, 4, 5 times, just clearing that out because of the accumulation of things overnight while they're sleeping. Then, once things are into the bloodstream, now we have this acquired immune response. And it's very important to realize this is not present at birth. So our body really doesn't have, when you kind of break it down, doesn't really have an acquired immunity response at birth. And we try to trigger these by injecting things into the body, but we don't have the capabilities yet. Okay, so with the acquired immune response, you have to have something get into your bloodstream and have the body identify it response right away, and then you're going to have that secondary response where you're going to build antibodies to those things, because the antibodies, when you break them down, we'll go over them a little bit, they're search parties. They're always looking for something that's not supposed to be there. They're the good guys trying to protect you. So let's take COVID, for example. Brand new virus came around a couple years ago somehow, and everybody is scrambling around, freaking out. It was, it's going to be the worst thing ever. There's massive panic, and turns out it wasn't that bad if you had a healthy immune system. Excuse me, allergies. So one of the most common tests we ran after this started coming out was the COVID antibody test. Those antibodies are the exact same antibodies you can develop towards foods, towards past infections, some environmental things, and other things. Those are IgG antibodies. So the difference between the quantity of antibodies your body, you create a ton of antibodies to go looking for that virus. When a dead virus is put in, it's not active, you produce a small amount of antibodies. That's why boosters are so prominent, because, well, one, they don't work in the first place. Two, they produce a very small antibody response, and if the antibodies aren't activated or they're not triggered, they stop looking. They start to deteriorate and degenerate after about 6 months, and they start to break down until the body recycles them and they're gone. So food allergies can change. Seasonal allergies can change over time, okay? Now, when we go into this acquired immunity, here's your bad guy, right? Cops and robbers. Robbers on the left. He is, whether it's a toxin, whether it's a virus, whether it's a food, bacteria, whatever it is, coming from the outside in. Then you have the macrophage or dendritic cells. So these are the cops. They're always on patrol, and what their job is to catch the bad guy, okay? Now, if we get overwhelmed, there's a bunch of toxins, a bunch of bacteria, a bunch of viruses or food getting into the system. The first thing they do is radio for help. And what they do is they contact the T helper cell. And I refer to this guy, you might have seen this as CD4 or CD4 CD8 cells. So I refer to this guy as the Paul Revere of the immune system. So as soon as they call him, he's on the horn saying, the virus is coming, the virus is coming. Get help, get help. Now we're activating an immune system response. And what that looks like is this, okay? So you have this CD4, and he's calling the cytotoxic cells. He's calling the T suppressor cells. He's calling the B cells to find the bad guy and destroy him. But also, if you look in the bottom middle, you have those two guys with binoculars. Those are the B cells. The B cells produce the antibodies that are going to be your search parties after the infection. Those are the antibodies you get from infection, that now you have what they're looking for as immunity. But you gotta remember, immunity, nobody has it. Nobody has it in their immune system. Immunity is a legal term. It has nothing to do with how your immune system, if it's compromised, you are more likely to develop symptoms from multiple same virus over and over and over again, because you're allowing that thing to get in, right? So if that first line of your defense is down, you're going to put more of a constant, consistent tax on your immune system than anything else. Think of a castle with a wall around it. If the wall has 75 doors that are all open, you're going to get invaded over and over and over again by the same hordes. Okay? So what we want to do is when we look at the immune system, it's then help to rebuild, but also finding the triggers so you're not constantly coming in contact with something that's throwing your immune system down where you're trying to build it up. Okay? So when it comes to barriers, when it comes to these airways, these allergies, when you think about it from fireman approach, from medical approach, predominantly the number one thing that's going to be given for these things is prednisone, right? Prednisone helps open up the airways, it helps calm down inflammation, suppressants, and they will help to break down your barriers, leaving you more ripe for infection. It can help you in the short term to where you're left defenseless, okay? So like I said, the B cells produce antibodies. Well, what's an antibody? Let's define it. So an antibody is a class of protein called an immunoglobulin, which is made by specialized white blood cells, the B cells, to identify and neutralize material foreign to an immune system. So they're shaped like a Y, right? And antibodies contain a highly variable region in their fork, which I'll show you in a second, which allows the immune system to tailor its response to a countless range of threats, which means it is specific. They're specific for one thing. So you can test to see if you have influenza A antibodies. You can test to see if you have COVID antibodies. You can test and see if you have measles, right? You can test these things because they are specifically designed for apples, for pears, for peaches, for yeast, for wheat. You name it, pepper, garlic, all these wonderful things on a food allergy test, they're specific for that thing, right? They're not just general looking for everything and you have a hyperimmune response to every single thing. If that's the why, it's all put together. So we have IgG antibodies, which are typically going to be produced in response to previous, I don't want to say infection, but invasion, right? Something got into your system and these are going to go out looking for more. The IgA, how I remember these, how I relate these to people are IgA, first letter of the alphabet, first line defense. This is going to be more found in your barriers. Yes, you can test it in the bloodstream, but it's in your barriers of your colon, your small intestine, your stomach lining, your sinuses, your airways. It's all over your skin. This is your first line of defense. IgMs are going to be increased when there's actually an active infection going on and your immune system is still dealing with something. And IgE, those are those, people most commonly think of them as the EpiPen type reactions. So when we take a look at what types of allergies they can be, so the host responds to presence of foreign substances, 4 types of hypersensitivity reactions, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. So IgE are the immediate type reactions, like you touch a peanut to your lips and all of a sudden your lips start swelling and all that thing, right? A bee sting, everything goes anaphylactic type. So depending on the strength, they can actually literally cause death, right? So E are immediate, think EpiPen, okay? This is the only part of your immune system, literally the only part of your immune system that responds immediately. It makes up less than 0.03% of your immune system. So that leaves over 99.97% of your immune system to have these antibodies, to have T cells, macrophages, and all these other things. Then type 2, the antibodies, you have IgG and IgM. So IgM is going to be produced when there's something active going on, right? It's immediate. It's not, well, it's not immediate. It's moderating something that's in there now. And then the G's are produced to go out looking for more. So those are more of a general reaction. Those are the search parties. They do not attack, okay? They do not attack. And then type 3, you have your GAM. Your IgGs are going to be the search parties. Your IgM are your barriers. And your IgA, are your barriers. And IgM are going to be dealing with that immediate type, current type response, geez. And then you have the immune complexes afterwards, right? With the cops and robbers, going back to the CD4, the CD8s, the macrophages, the natural killer cells, and all those. And then type 4, which is your immune complexes, the T cells, macrophages, and then the type of person who is sick all the time, right? So there's 2 types of people. They're sick all the time or they're never sick. So I have more of a concern with the people who say they never get sick. Because one, there's two ends of the spectrum there. Either your immune system is going after everything and destroying everything it comes in contact with like right away, and I think possibility of autoimmune disease. Or the immune system is just laying on the road dead. It's immunocompromised or immunostressed, and the body just doesn't respond at all because it can't muster a response and we get overrun by all these viruses. Okay? I'd rather have the person who gets sick every now and again, once, twice a year, right? Just because then you're putting your immune system under immediate acute stress and you build up a strong response, right? That's why I love childhood diseases, right? Because they're not diseases, they're infections, right? When you talk about build and strengthen their immune system, so as we age, we have a healthy immune system and we deal with all these things while we're little, okay? I don't want to see people having all these things put into their system before the body is ready for it, all these different viruses that, quite frankly, you might never come in contact with, just keeping these things in circulation all the time with all of the other things. Call me crazy. Like we say, I'd rather have aluminum on my head than in my bloodstream. But, you know, if we're constantly assaulting the immune system with different things, we're going to drive it down. And remember, we are never been more sick than we are now. Never more autoimmunity, never more cancer, never more heart disease, never more diabetes and all these other things. Mast cells that actually produce the histamines in response to an allergy trigger. Okay, so that way, if you are coming in contact with unknown allergens, let's say you've never had your food allergies tested, then you don't know what you don't know, and your immune system is responding to something, this can help calm that down. It'll calm down a lot. It'll help calm all those down by helping calm down the immune system triggers while you find out what they are. And then, once you find out what they are, you have the burden of knowledge. Because now what you have to do is avoid those triggers. That's the tough part. So when we look, got this off of PubMed, right? It is Albizia levick, which is the full name, suppresses histamine signaling by the inhibition of H1 histamine receptors and histidine decarboxylase gene transcriptions. So when you get down into the nuts and bolts of the study, what they're trying to do is figure out what they can use from nature to convert into drugs as antihistamines. So they want to make synthetic things out of the natural things that work. Well, why can't we just clean up the environment and grow more healthy, natural, organic herbs that actually have the same response? Okay, so that's what we do. We grow all our things organically. While we process them organically, they're put into nice, clean alcohol that's in the bottle with them that extracts the active. We create things that you are well aware of. Every medication has what? Side effects. That's it. Everyone. Not good ones, adverse side effects. So when we're looking at things like Albizia, the only side effect really you're going to get is maybe you pee a little bit more because it's helping to dilate and open up the blood vessels because the inflammation is going down. Okay? So, Albizia, one of our favorites. It's one of the first herbs we ever produced just because they're one of the most common. And then when the people, the patients, you, figure out what you're allergic to when you start avoiding these things, the need for those things goes away. And then it's, oh, something snuck in, I'll take a little swig of it. So these aren't things, remember, these are all designed to bridge the gap to where you don't need them anymore. When it comes to the herbs, that's it. Take them until you don't need them because you've figured out why you need them in the first place, and then the need for them goes away. They're not designed for just take this for the rest of your life. That's not how it works. Okay, it's not how the number's like that in the first place, so that we can get the body to heal and repair so we don't need those things. Okay, so that's our product knowledge. Next, I want to go into a little bit of what I like to call a hot topic. I don't like to call it that. Growing up, my mom, and still has, an inhaler for asthma. Her asthma triggers are typically going to be animals, right? The dander and everything from animals. So I was always keenly aware that if the animal's around, she was walking around with her inhaler, and I got a, growing up, early education into what that was for. It didn't make it old, and let's go back to the cats thing. I should have put peanut butter because that was the name of the cat. So I went to the local drugstore one day with my friend because they were giving away free cats, and I went and got a cat, and I knew my mom was allergic to cats, so here was my plan. I was going to hide out in the neighbor's garage until they left and went somewhere, and then I was going to bring the cat in the house. It was going to be my cat. It was a little tabby cat, named it Peanut Butter. And my mom turned it, and then I was told that I had an anaphylactic type response when there was a cat around when I was a baby. Okay, so she was necessarily concerned, especially since she has those type of reactions. So with that, after that, I can be around cats. I don't like cats all that much. I can be around dogs. I can be around all these other things and not have an allergy response to these things, right? Food. Yes, I have food allergies. I have 8. Okay, I have had 8 multiple times on hemp and flax seeds, this guy. So I always get good allergy responses because, one, I have good barriers. I have a good immune system working. I have a very short list. I also just tested somebody, a little 2-year-old who has 35 plus all the 8 most common IgE type responses, which are the immediate ones, and they're all severe. So that means he may have more. Why do we test 8 first? Because those are the 8 most common statistically. Okay, well, we can test for more, and we're going to end up doing that, right? And then air. Yes, I am allergic to the air. Figure that one out. But we moved from a nice little small ranch over here in De Pere up to Little Swamco, moved about 15 miles. And 3 months after we moved into that house, I remember this because we moved in Labor Day, and it was right around my birthday, and my mom was in town, and wasn't, you know, I figured this was 2018, so it wasn't a COVID thing yet. But it just all of a sudden hit me. All of a sudden, 11:30 or 12, I would wake up unable to breathe for about an hour and a half to 2 hours, and I would sit there in the bathroom and cough and cough and cough. That's when I talked to a wonderful nurse practitioner who is currently, I was in a place where I couldn't breathe. And anybody who's had these attacks where they can't breathe, even thinking about it after you have one, you get massive anxiety. But I sent Kim to go get it and bring it back so I could breathe. And took a couple hits of a rescue inhaler, and I could finally breathe. Okay, I held on to it for a little. I slept through the night. It was great, and then gave it back to him, and then started going again. So we did some tests, we did some labs, we did some screens, and I have prescribed with me at all times just in case, because I don't want that to happen again. Even now during allergy season right now, because of where my immune system's at, I've taken this once in the last 2 months. I have not taken this in probably 6 months to a year, right? So, okay, I tested my immune system response to environmental inhaled things, right? Things that you inhale, things that you breathe in, because I knew it wasn't food, okay? Because it wasn't happening anywhere around food. So this is Genova Labs. They do an inhaled crop grass, orchard grass. Knowing that I'm allergic to them at least gives me a peace of mind to say, all right, have everything ready in case when spring comes and the pollen's blooming and all that stuff, you may have issues with your breathing. And we had people come to the house, and they tested the house. They walked in, I don't smell anything. Okay. And had this little meter they put against the wall, and they said, oh, it's dry. No kidding, it's been dry in the house for quite a while. The house is a very dry house. Sits on top, comes from above, and it hasn't rained in a while. Yes, it's dry. So I ran this test. This is a test that you can get. You go online. If you go any great mold work, I recommend starting with survivingmold.com. But if you go into testing, you can go into this company. It's EnviroBiomics. It's not the only one out there, but what they do is they send you a kit that looks for mold, okay? You dust it, because mold, once it gets in your airways, is going to spread throughout your entire house. So now we have ultraviolet lights in our ductwork. We have to fix, but where, you know, look at this. If it has 1 asterisk, that's 10 times higher. If it has 2, that's 100. If it has 3, that's 1,000 times higher than what they would expect. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 30 out of 36 molds that they look for are in the house. Some are very low, not stars. Some are double star, some are single star. And then the second page under conclusions, see all that bright red? Interpretation Q4, very high. High relative moldiness index, sources and cause of mold should be determined. Bingo. If you can't find the source, you can't stop the mold. We found the source with the mold. We have a crack in the chimney. We are getting the chimney fixed ASAP. That stops the influx of water. Then we have to go in and remove all the mold, right? Because the mold is going to continue to grow. It is a living organism. It is a fungus, right? So it is going to continue to grow. We have to then remove it. And like I said, we have the ultraviolet light in the ductwork to kill it as it circulates. But still, then we're talking about sterilizing everything in the house, possibly ripping out drywall and insulation and all these other things to make the whole mold. Because when the guy came and looked, the actual professional who was talking about remediating the mold got up into the crawl spaces instead of just looking at the wood and saying it's dry. Looked and he used a word I didn't ever want to hear when it came to mold. He said, yes, there is thick mold. Did not want to hear mold described as thick ever in my life. And then on the third page of this test, the hurts me, this is basically telling you whether or not you should re-inhabit the house. Score of 20, if greater than 15, re-occupancy, ill-advised until further remediation and reassessment. So basically what the lab says is the house is the cause. And if you don't fix that, let's either you got a couple options. You can leave or you can fix it if you like the house. We like the house, we're gonna stay there. So we're gonna fix it, but it's not just what it triggers there. In the world, but you can't out-supplement bad habits, right? It's kind of like you can't out-exercise poor nutrition. If the environment is clean, you cannot heal in the same environment in which you got sick. You can have less symptoms, sure, but less symptoms means you're suppressing an immune response, which means you're weakening your immune response, which means you're setting yourself up for disaster. So when it comes to figuring out your allergies, take them serious. But at the same time, ask why you got the allergies in the first place. Is there a digestive system issue? Is there an environmental issue? Are you breathing in things that are in your environment? Do you have a job where you're constantly around chemicals? Do you have all this stuff bombarding your system and you feel like, well, the problem is for men, we don't really feel that bad and then we brush it off. Something's wrong. Right? Something's gone massively wrong and your bodies are going to start acting like the circus comes to town. Pay attention to those signals, right? Because that's a sign that there's something throwing your system off. And you have to ask the question why. Why is this happening? Not how can we change the symptoms, right? By suppressing, by inhibiting the immune system, what can we do to find the triggers so that we can avoid them to give our body a best chance it has to heal? So we can live long, we can live healthy, we can live strong, independent, healthy lives and not be dependent on taking 17 different things out of containers every single day to just make it through the day because we were told that we have to take these things for the rest of our lives. That's not independence. That's a slave to the medical world. And I don't want you to be one of those. So I want you all day, if you are in this part of the woods, drive careful. It is snowing again, it is slushy, it is sleety, it is just cruddy out. Happy April, everybody. Go to Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania, find that groundhog and just take care of him because his prediction, man, I don't like that guy. So have an amazing day. Happy April Fool's Day. Good luck on your pranks and I'll see you soon.
Thank you for watching. Make sure to subscribe to this channel so you don't miss a single video or live stream.
Each week on a different perspective, we bring you the most cutting-edge information on health,